This is the new Volkswagen Golf R. You know what it's like, it's a Golf R. It's handsome, it's very, very fast, it bullies other supercars on the highway, and it's still not as fun to drive as a Golf GTI. Or is it? No, this car is not suddenly slow. But Volkswagen says it's done some tweaking under the skin, and this new Mark 8 is actually fun to drive. Really? We'll be the judge of that. Let's go and find out. First things first, the Golf R is not cheap. It never has been, but this car costs 358,000 ringgit. That is 60,000 ringgit more for a car that's not actually all that much faster than the previous Golf R. Sure, the competition has thinned in recent years. For example, you can no longer get the Mercedes-AMG A35, but this is still quite a lot of money. For a C-segment hatchback, at least that money buys you a more distinctive looking car than the previous Golf R, which looked a little bit like a tarted up Golf R line. This, however, gets a new front bumper with those fangs on the bottom edge to make it look a bit more aggressive. And this blue line on the grille actually runs right into the headlight, unlike the red line in the Malaysian spec Golf GTI. And look, there are functional air intakes here to feed both the radiators and the intercoolers. Looks very good, doesn't it? Along the side, the Golf R gets these massive 19-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Goodyear Eagle F1 Supersport tyres, and they measure 235mm wide on both the front and the rear axles. You also get blue brake calipers and a clamp down on cross-drilled discs at the front. Also fitted is this R badge on the front fenders and these silver door mirrors, just in case you forget what you're looking at. Around the back, you have this slightly larger rear spoiler, you have the IQ lights over here, which look really good, the R badge in the center, and this massive rear diffuser with quad tailpipes. Unfortunately, we don't get the Akrapovic exhaust option available in other markets, but don't worry, these still sound very good. The interior of this Mark 8 Golf is very different from the Mark 7. It is a very minimalist cabin with this horizontal dashboard, this large center console, and lots of gloss black plastic that attract fingerprints like nothing else. The build quality has also taken a little bit of a downgrade. This top surface is still soft touch, but everything below the bottom half is all hard and scratchy plastics. And this fake carbon fiber trim they have over here just looks awful. However, you do get these nice sport seats covered in leather and this, again, fake carbon fiber trim. And you get heating and ventilation for the front seats and power adjustment and memory for the driver. You also still get a lot of storage space in the center console, including this nifty pop-out cup holder and this slightly small storage compartment covered by this height adjustable armrest. Overall, however, this is still not quite as nice on the inside as the Mark 7. Then you come to the switchgear. All of the hard buttons on the top half have been replaced by touch controls, including the light switches over here and the buttons for your reverse camera, your non-existent driver assistance functions, the climate control, and the drive modes. Right in the center is a 10-inch Discover Pro touchscreen, which works reasonably well. And the good thing is you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly as standard. Now the screen is a little bit small for the Apple CarPlay system, but at least it's nice and bright and sharp. You also get a gesture control system with this car, but as you can see, it doesn't really respond, as well as it should be. My main bone of contention are the settings. They're strewn all about the infotainment system, and the vehicle controls are clustered in this menu over here. So you have to browse through this 3D model of a Golf, which isn't even a Golf R, to find what you're looking for. And if you want to turn off the engine start-stop, it's actually located in this menu. And then there are the climate controls, which have also migrated into this screen. Yes, there are buttons for you to control your temperature as well as your volume, but they are a little bit fiddly to use, and worst of all, they aren't lit up. So if you're driving at night, you're going to have a bad time. Also, to access the full climate control menu, you have to press this section over here, which is blocked by the steering wheel. The digital instrument cluster is very sharp and colorful, which is very nice. Now, if you put the car into race mode, which you can do by pressing this special R button over here, you automatically get this bar style rev counter at the top. I'm not quite sure that's quite so intuitive. I much prefer the large central round rev counter, and that takes a while to get there using this button. To do that, you have to use the controls on the steering wheel, which again are touch sensitive. They're not very nice to use, and you can easily press the button for the steering wheel heater, which is not very nice. What is good are the steering wheel pedals over here. They're nice and big, although they're still a little bit clicky in their action. The steering wheel is also nice and thick with a flat bottom that is unique to the Golf R, as are the alloy pedals down there. One thing I want to point out, there is a space here to put your phone in here, but unfortunately you don't get wireless charging over in Malaysia, and this lid is already starting to creak. Can you hear that? At the back here, the Mark 8 offers a decent amount of space. This seat is set to my driving position, and as you can see, I've got a good amount of legroom, and I can slide my feet under the front seats, despite this seat being set to the lowest position. Headroom is also adequate, if not especially generous, and that's partly due to the fact that I'm seated quite high in the back. I've also got pockets behind the front seats for phones and what have you. I have this rear armrest with twin cup holders, and I've got rear aircon vents and my own controls for the temperature, which are touch sensitive. Obviously, the lights on the top are also touch sensitive, and the storage bin for the doors over here are lined in soft felt, and that's the same case for the front as well. Other things to note, there are USB-C ports everywhere in the car, including for the rear, and you also get a 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. The Golf is still a practical family car at heart, and the boot of the Mark 8 measures 381 litres, which is a decent size for a hatchback. You can also clip up the boot floor to get access to what's underneath. Of course, you can still fold down the rear seats for extra space, and there's also a ski hatch in the middle to store larger items. Now, let's go for a drive. The Golf R is powered by Volkswagen's familiar 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 320 PS and 400 Nm of torque. That's 20 PS and 20 Nm more than the previous Golf R. You don't get any reduction in power this time around, but torque is down 20 Nm compared to other markets because of our fuel. All that powers a car that is around 100 kilograms heavier than before, weighing in at 1.5 tons. Even so, this car is very fast. It gets from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.8 seconds, 0.3 of a second quicker than the Mark 7.5. Floor it and the car delivers its power right up until the red line. There is a little bit of turbo lag down low, but that's to be expected given the performance, and you don't really notice it when you're driving it quickly. The thrust is matched by this fantastic engine note, especially in the top race mode. You get a little bit of pops and bangs on the overrun, but not any of the crackles that you'd find on the Akapovich version. Even so, this is still a very nice sounding engine. The 7-speed DSG wet dual clutch transmission is also very good. The shifts are very smooth and responds quickly to each press of the paddle shifters. The car starts off in sport mode by default. In comfort mode, there is an additional eco mode that the transmission defaults to, and it makes the car feel very lazy. It doesn't respond well to throttle inputs. But once you get into D, and especially in the S mode, it does respond much faster. In our 3 days of testing, the Golf R averaged around 9 km per litre, which is actually not too bad given its performance. It's particularly impressive at a cruise, where its long 7th gear allows it to sip on fuel. Use all of that performance, however, and you can expect the fuel consumption to shoot up dramatically. The Golf R rides 20mm lower than the standard Golf. It also has stiffer springs than the previous Golf R, and it also rides on DCC, dynamic chassis control, which is a form of adaptive dampers. In sport mode, the ride is fairly firm, but it does retain a little bit of composure. Comfort mode is softer still, but to get the most comfortable ride, you actually have to go into the settings and put it 3 steps lower. In this mode, the ride smoothens out while still giving you enough body control to go over bumps without the car moving about. However, this is a performance car, so the ride is still fairly stiff compared to a regular car. If you're looking for comfort at this price, you should really just go and buy a BMW 5 Series. Refinement is also decent, if not outstanding. There's a little bit of wind noise at highway speeds, and the road noise is rather dependent on the surface. Sometimes it can be rather quiet, and other times it can be quite loud and it echoes quite a bit in this cabin. Again, you don't buy this car for its cruising ability, even though this car can cover great distances very easily, hampered only by the slightly small fuel tank and the need for RON 97 at a minimum. You can pump RON 95 at a pinch, but if you're spending this much money on a Golf, you really shouldn't. So far, so Golf R. Very fast and reasonably comfortable on the highway. But underneath the skin, there have been a lot of changes to make this thing a much sharper tool in the corners. You still get an all-wheel drive system as standard, but the rear axle now features torque vectoring. There are twin clutch packs that are able to send up to 100% of the rear torque to either wheel. That's the same sort of hardware you find in the Mercedes-AMG A45. The end result is that this is a car that no longer wants to understeer every time you hit a corner. The steering is quite sharp and the car is very eager to turn in, and you get quite a lot of feel coming through the steering wheel. You don't get the sensation of the steering wheel getting light when you're losing grip in the front. That's to be expected given that this is an electric power steering system, but otherwise it's not too bad. What's more, when you apply the throttle when you're in the corner, the front doesn't automatically want to push wide. The torque vectoring rear diff works well, and in the corners it actually allows you to adjust your line using the throttle. No, this car doesn't allow you to pull large drifts, especially because this car doesn't come with the R Performance Pack available in other markets, which gives you a drift mode and a special Nürburgring mode. Instead, when you apply the throttle, the car naturally tightens its line, which is quite satisfying. Also, when you're going through a corner quickly and you lift off, you actually get some oversteer, which is very fun. In terms of safety, the Golf R comes with 6 airbags, stability control, and ISOFIX mounts both on the rear seats as well as the front passenger seat. However, again, it still does not come with any driver assists, including autonomous emergency braking. That, to be honest, is inexcusable for this price range. Now, Volkswagen Malaysia says that the system needs to be tested on local roads before it gets the green light. It really can't come soon enough. Overall, the Golf R adds some newfound finesse to its driving experience. It is still incredibly quick and it's still able to embarrass sports cars and supercars with complete ease. And the chassis upgrades have done the job. This is no longer a one-dimensional tool in the corners. This is a car that actually wants to move about without wanting to lose control. That is very impressive. There are still a few faults here and there. For instance, the interior is no longer as gimmick-free as the last generation. But to drive, I have absolutely no complaints. This is a great car to drive. So the new Golf R really lives up to those promises. It is no longer a blunt instrument in the corners and it's actually fun to drive. But you pay a high price for that fun, both in terms of the actual cost of the car and the lack of crucial safety features for this price. And I'm sorry, but those touch controls on the inside, they really have to go. But if you can ignore all of that and you just want something that's very fast and enjoyable to drive, this is a cracking little car.